College Football Podcast. Woo! And week 3, baby. This is going to be, I hate to admit it, after this week, it'll be a quarter over regular season. Well, no, I can't do math, but somewhere around there. Thank you for joining with me, and I'm the host, Pac-Man. Make sure, is my audio actually working this time? It wasn't last time when I screwed it up. Let's see. Let's make sure everything's looking good here on the live stream. So everything's looking good so far. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Please, everyone, subscribe and like on YouTube. That makes a big difference for me. And subscribe to any podcast apps. It should be everywhere, even on Google Podcasts. It took forever to get there. Please give 5 stars. That doesn't mean a lot to me. And I'd love to read any comments I get from I will answer any ones that I get, even after the fact. I'll try to get to them. Also, I did get a voicemail text line, so you can call or text. I will post the calls on the video, and I'll read the text out. So that number is 208-643-5729. That's 208-643-5729. I'll also put that in the show notes also, just so you know. And let's see here. I did get my first comment on the channel. Woo! So this one's kind of interesting. So the name was Zach Wilson's mom's friend. Weird. Comment was, what do you get when 2 Cougars hook up? You get a subpar New York Jets quarterback. I don't get it. Is that like the Cougar BYU Cougars and that mom you went after? I'm not sure, but we'll have to see on that. Second here, let's see. Last video I mentioned my favorite 1-win team, baby. Woo-hoo. Now, that 1-win team is Nebraska. Now, I predicted that they would be the nation's best 2-win team this week, but I was wrong. They are still the nation's best 1-win team. Wow, that's just a feat to be had, and I think they will continue being the best 1-win team in the nation after this week. So let's see how good they can get with Scott Frost getting fired. That's the big news of the week. Not very surprising after he lost to Marshall, which was totally unexpected. No, totally beefed that one. That was Notre Dame that lost to Marshall. No, Scott, after they lost, I think it was Georgia Southern, off the top of my head here, which was unexpected. I thought they'd win that, and they lost there, and he is out. Now, Nebraska is swimming in so much money that they decided not even to wait for 20 days or whatever until October 1st, which would have put the buyout from $15 million down to $7.5 million. They decide, hey, it's worth $7.5 million to fire him now. So that's saying a lot. They have a lot of money to waste. Well, I mean, money can't buy the nation's best 1-win team, so that makes sense for sure. So, yeah, there's that. Now, one other thing I looked at were the rankings for this. Wanted to go over the rankings here. Now, some of the interesting ones and on there. And so Kansas State, I feel they got hosed on this one, so they should have been ranked. And of course, they're not ranked. If they were in the SEC, they would have been ranked before the season started. So even after spanking an SEC team that isn't good, but they beat them bad, Missouri, they don't like each other. It's not like Kansas State, but Kansas State, Missouri just don't really like each other from my experience being in Kansas City. Washington State beats Wisconsin in Wisconsin. the number 19 Wisconsin isn't ranked. Oregon State should be ranked. North Carolina deserves to be ranked. After beating App State that beat Texas A&M, that's still ranked. Now we'll go over that later. But there's some really ridiculous stuff, and some people should have their voting rights taken away on the AP after this kind of crap. Now, Clemson's a little overrated, I think, at 5. I really think they should be more like 10 or lower, maybe. But they've got the big name, and USC is very overrated. I think USC should probably be like 20 or something, if that. Very good offense, bad defense. Now, I'm glad that Pac-12 teams rated high, but they're overrated. Baylor only moved down to 17 after looking like utter garbage against BYU. I think BYU's a little overrated. I think they're a good team, but they are overrated either way there. That's what I think on that one. But let me go ahead and make sure. But yeah, so some of them didn't change a whole ton. And let's see here. So the SEC still have 8 teams ranked. 8 out of 14, ridiculous amount. ACC is the same at 5. Big Ten is the same at 4. The Big 12 went from 3 to 4 teams ranked. Pac-12 went from 2 to 3 teams ranked. Let's see, and that's because Oregon came in. Let's see, who else? The Big 12 had Texas come in after that game against Alabama, so that makes sense. Now, let's see here. So independents went from 2 to 1. Notre Dame dropped off there. So BYU's the only ranked independent team. Houston fell off the ranking, so they have 0. And there are actually no group of 5. Well, I guess BYU. The only group of 5 team ranked is BYU out of all of the conferences because they've been pretty bad this year. Although not that they should have been, there are others that I think should have been ranked that are not. Now, next segment here, I got a new segment. I kind of asked some questions and did a poll on this. So a new segment is ESecPN. Now, here we'll talk about the favoritism we all love from the SEC. So this week I'll start with the Aggies. Now, not my Utah State Aggies, where my alma mater, but the Aggies from Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, even the favoritism. So now I do have family in Texas and our Aggies, but I still think it's ridiculous. One of the most ridiculous things I've seen in a while is Texas A&M being ranked after that terrible loss at home to App State. And App State that just is still unranked. Just trash. This is artificially inflates the strength of the conference that doesn't need any inflation. They don't need 8 teams. They don't deserve 8 teams in the rankings. Now, on another part of the segment, let's get to the elephant in the room, Alabama. They were penalized a lot against Texas, and deservedly so, but they weren't penalized enough. They got some favors at the end with the missed holding on the big scramble by Bryce Young at the end of the game. Alabama quarterback, Bryce Young looked like he was sacked. Well, here's the big one. That weird play in the end zone. He looked like he was sacked in the end zone on the 3rd and 7. Should have gone for a safety. They called it as targeting and roughing the passer, which doesn't make sense if Young wasn't considered down. The referee mentioned that there was no foul in the play, but was he down? Why was the throw not considered intentional grounding and thus a safety? If it were, Texas gets 2 points on the safety and the ball. Now, I really think Texas would have won. They would have won if yours hadn't gotten hurt. One of my favorites, and all the fans' favorites, obviously, G5. So, the playoff elimination. Do you remember G5 teams eliminated after 1 loss? Pac-5 teams eliminated after 2 losses. Let's see here. I think I didn't get water in my drink. But let's see here. So, week 1, only 6 were eliminated. That was all G5 teams, a group of 5. Week 2, 31 were eliminated. And let's see, so I am misnumbered. So week 0, 6 were eliminated. Week 1, 31 were eliminated, which makes sense. Week 2, which was last week, there are 5 group of 5 teams and 15, so 5 Power 5 teams, I apologize, and 15 group of 5 teams. So a total of 20 were eliminated. That was the first time Power 5 team was eliminated. So on all weeks together, 57 teams are eliminated from the playoffs, 57 of 31. Now, list those. The Power 5, obviously Notre Dame, they've lost twice with their loss to Marshall. In the ACC, West Virginia was eliminated, and Boston College. Boston College is terrible this year. In Big Ten, Nebraska, Pac-12, Colorado. So those are the 5. ACC with the most eliminated is 2. The rest was just 1, and SEC with none so far. Sun Belt, Old Dominion's eliminated, Arkansas State, American, Houston, UCF, Conference USA, FIU, UAB, the MAC, Ohio, Akron, I can't speak, NIU, Eastern Michigan University, in the Mountain West, New Mexico, UNLV, Nevada, San Jose State, and Fresno State. Now, I wanted to go over the numbers there. So on that, the SEC still has 0 eliminated. Big Ten has 1 eliminated and remains 93% of their conference. ACC loses 2 and is at 86% remaining. 2 out of 14 been eliminated. Pac-12, 1 out of 12 is eliminated. That's Colorado, and they're at 92%. And the Big 12 has 0 eliminated, but they only have 10 members, so 10 remain. Sun Belt, we'll just go over what is remaining because it's so low. Sun Belt only has the most of the group of 5 with 6 independents. There's 2 left. Mid-American, 2 left. ACC, 2 left. Mountain West, 1 left, and Conference USA, 1 left. There are only 14 remaining group of 5 schools, and that's only 27% of, and I think after this week it's going to go down significantly more. Most of the group of 5 schools are eliminated, about 3/4 of them. So let's see here. Okay, some of the good games I went over last time ended up being pretty good. So we got Louisville at UCF is the one game on Friday that I was interested in. They're favored by 5.5 points. Louisville came from behind and probably saving Scott Satterfield's job. So somehow UCF gave it up, and Louisville won that one. So good on them. Saturday, the first game, the game I thought was going to be over by half, and credit to Texas. It was not, so good on them. So that was an amazing game. I thought it was going to be over by half. So this was, unfortunately, Ewers got hurt, knocked out of the game. He'll be out for 4 to 6 weeks. So he'll be back this season, but we'll have to see how his backup does, even though he was gimped the whole time. As I said before, I do think Texas should have won. And man, what a big upset that would have been. It's too bad. Now, next, my next favorite, the next game in chronological order, no other kind of order there. So, like I said, K-State looked really good, and they should be in the top 25. What they did to Mizzou will be talked about in Kansas City for years to come, as they really demolished, and Kansas City really is the hub of those 2 schools. Well, Missouri kind of St. Louis too. But now, App State at Texas A&M is most of the podcasts, the big ones with SEC bias especially, they thought that this was going to be blowout, wasn't going to be close. Now, not only after last game, but even since before before the season. I thought this was going to be a good game. I looked forward to it. And lo and behold, it was a good game, and they won, and they deserved it. App State deserves to be ranked this season because of that. Right now, they should be ranked in the top 25. Now, Tennessee Pitt, that was a great game, went into overtime. Tennessee has a great offense against a good defensive Pitt. Slovis wasn't hurt. I think it would have been a win for Pitt, but it was a great game either way. Washington State, they won 17-14 against 19th ranked Wisconsin. Not many people are talking about this one, which is weird because I think Washington State should be ranked after being 19th ranked team, but they're not. Impressively, their defense looked pretty good, while offense not so much, which is kind of the opposite of how they usually are. But, part of their offense not looking very good could be Wisconsin just being really good at defense. Houston, Texas Tech. Houston lost in overtime, and it was a push from last time I got the numbers. It was 3. It was -3, so they won 33-30. Texas Tech won. Unfortunately, they won't be able to. I was unable to catch much of this one, but looks like the Cougars ran out of luck in second overtime. They will be tied for the upcoming week, though, so that's tough for both of those teams there. Now, let's see here. Now, according to Iowa State, I thought that was going to be a good one. I mean, good. I know they hate each other really bad. Iowa State finally, after 6 years, I think, beat them. But Iowa is such a bad defense, or such a bad offense. Now, S&P Plus has them as the 7th best defense and 85th best offense, which I actually think should be worse, as they do still have numbers from last year. So, this is so bad. I mean, they've scored like one offensive touchdown this year so far, one at least the last 2 weeks, right? Against, Iowa State and was that North Dakota, but just really bad. Now, Kentucky in rivalry game goes and beats Florida 26-16. Now, everyone's saying that this means Utah's garbage, but let's look at this from another viewpoint. Utah crossed the country to play Florida on Napier's first game. Utah looked to be in control of most of the game and lost on an interception at the last of the game. Now, Kentucky played well, but they had game tape from Utah and successfully dared Richardson to throw the ball, which he could not do. That Utah could have been better prepared, or maybe anticipated that Florida would be so run heavy, but they, give them some credit, and I think they will as they continue to win coming forward. Now, number 10 USC beat Stanford 41-28. Now, looking at the box score, it doesn't look like that much of a win, but they truly dominated Stanford offensive. USC scored at will and probably could have run it up even more. Now, their defense is very lacking. They're ranked number 7 now. So, like I said, I think that's overrated. They're probably 15-20 range, but still, they're going to, have some good games. And I wish they were had a better offseason as far as like other teams. They have Notre Dame, but Notre Dame screwed the pooch, so it's going to make it hard for anyone to really know how good they are, because they'll just blame them doing well and the Pac-12 being terrible, which they've won some good games. So I don't think the Pac-12 is as bad as it generally is. Now, one of the last games of the night, and a really good one, was Baylor at BYU. Number 9 Baylor at number 21 BYU. Now, say this, BYU is good, but not a great team. They will win games, and they are fun to watch, but probably not number 12. They should probably be more around 15-20. So not too far off, but, Baylor, I think, was overrated at number 9, and they didn't look very good. Baylor will lose plenty of games this year, And I think BYU will win plenty of games. I think they'll probably be 9-3 or 10-2. But it's kind of took a hard hit when Oregon got blown out. Notre Dame lost to Marshall. That took some of the wins out of their shells there. But they do have a good schedule coming up here. Now Oregon State won 35-32. I'm so excited for these guys. I called it from before the season started. They showed some guts. They didn't want it to go over overtime, and they punched it in at the end of the game and won in regulation. I definitely think Oregon State should be ranked in the top 25. As I said before, Fresno's a good team, and it was at Fresno. Their offense is great. Their defense isn't super great, but good for what Oregon State usually is. Now, the last game of the night was Mississippi State, 39, Arizona 17. Arizona did keep it within reach for a lot of the game. And so, I think they did better than a lot of people thought they would. Now, they still got beat pretty good at home. But, looking at what they did last week, last year, that's pretty good. So I'm really confident in Arizona going forward. I think they'll be a good team coming up, so we'll have to watch out for them. Now, just halfway through here, I'm just going to take a little bit of break, and then we'll get back and review the games coming up here. Okay, welcome back, guys. Now, looking forward to next week. Some of the good games coming up here. And let's see if my mouse will work. So you got Florida State favored by 2.5. This is as of the other day, so could have changed. But Florida State favored by 2.5 at Louisville. Now, I think Florida State is the better game or the better team, but the problem is they may overlook Louisville going forward. This is kind of a trap game with the games they've had in the past. I think they're going to be a lot better in Louisville. It just didn't look very good against Syracuse. So I think they may overlook them. Now, next game that's interesting is Georgia at 10 a.m. at South Carolina. Now, Georgia's going to do some terrible things in South Carolina that shouldn't be allowed on TV. So they will cover. We're favored by 24.5 points. So they definitely will cover that, and they will win, obviously. The next one, interesting game, also at 10 a.m. So there's a lot of good games at 10 a.m. this week. So 1, 2, 3, there's 3 good games. So this is the second one. This one is Oklahoma at Nebraska, favored by 11. So this is interesting because obviously Scott Frost was fired. It would be classic college football for them and very funny, if Nebraska won this one. I'm rooting for that. Nothing against Oklahoma. I just think it would be funny. Now, the third game, maybe game of the week for this next game, or who would have thought, I don't know if it's really the game of the week, but it is really interesting. Now, who would have thought this was an interesting game? This is Purdue at Syracuse, but what a good job Syracuse have done. And after that Louisville game, we'll have to see. And actually, I think that Syracuse will cover. They are favored by 1 at home. I think they'll cover and they'll win that one. Now, next one is South Alabama at UCLA. UCLA favored by 15.5. Now, for some are wondering why the offseason looks a little soft for UCLA. It's because Michigan canceled. I'm not sure if it was a year or two ago or whenever it was. They canceled the game and they had to fill it in. Now, so some people think that UCLA didn't look very good last week, but they don't understand that their quarterback didn't really play very much, and Charbonnet, really, really good running back did not play at all. So I think they will cover, obviously, and win that game. Now, the next game I think is interesting, also at noon. The last one was at noon, UCLA game, is Old Dominion at Virginia. Really only interesting to see if Old Dominion can sweep the Virginia schools. I don't think they will, but they may cover at least. So that would be interesting. So Virginia is favored by 8.5 there. So we'll see that. That would be kind of funny if they won the Virginia schools. We'd have to give them the Virginia championship on that one. Now, next one is Cal at Notre Dame. Now, this probably would have been a different game, or at least a more highly rated game, if Notre Dame didn't drop the ball against Marshall. But Cal's offense is pretty bad, and Notre Dame's offense is also bad. They're out their backup quarterback, so this may be like the Iowa State game where there's hardly any offense. Notre Dame's defense is probably better than Cal's, I would think. So I think they will win but not cover. Spread's pretty big, 11 for Notre Dame. I don't know if they'll be able to do that with a hurt quarterback, but I do not think Cal will win that game. Next one, kind of my buddies there in Kansas State. So Tulane is playing at Kansas State. That is one good game, and I really like that one, mainly because Tulane is undefeated. They haven't really played anyone, but I like Kansas State a lot, and I think they're going to destroy them. They're going to cover 14 and win, obviously. Now, one of the games of the week, I misspoke before, this is actually probably the game of the week, is BYU at Oregon, number 12 BYU at 25 Oregon. Oregon's favored by 3.5. Now, we'll go over that, but this will be a true test for BYU. They're a fun team to watch, but Baylor's run looked really good, especially towards the end as they grind them down a little bit. I think they will be tested by Oregon's line play, and being in a hostile environment will be hard for them. Autzen Stadium is not a very fun place to play in. Like I said, they are favored. Oregon's favored by 3.5. I think Oregon will cover and win the game. Now, one of the another good game, or what could have been a better game if Auburn wasn't so bad, but at 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time, we got Penn State at Auburn. Penn State is favored by 3. Now, I'm not sure Penn State deserves to be ranked. They did beat Purdue earlier, but really haven't played much. But I do think that the Auburn will cover and lose. So Penn State will win, but Auburn will cover on that game. Now, Liberty, next one, Liberty at Wake Forest. I think this is interesting because they're both undefeated. Liberty is one of the last 15, 16 group of 5 schools that are unrated or unranked. Obviously unranked, but they are undefeated. Now, the slow mesh is going to be hard for them to prepare for, so I think they'll win. I think Wake Forest will win, but 16.5 seems like a lot, so I don't think they'll cover on that. Now, next, at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, which is a weird time for a game there, but Mississippi State at LSU. This will be a fun one to see another test for LSU. Brian Kelly, lost the first game to Florida State, but that was the first game as a head coach. Maybe they've done a little bit better. Mississippi State, they looked good against Arizona, and I think Arizona's better than people think. So I think it'll be a good game, but I do. Mississippi State's favored by 2.5. I think they're going to cover that and win, obviously. Now, a good one here, Michigan State at Washington. So how often do you see a 11th ranked team in an away game, have the unranked underdog favored by 3.5 at home? I think Washington, I don't know why I didn't talk about it, but I do think they should be ranked. There's so many teams that should be ranked, but they're all really close. And Washington, I think that they're going to win at home, and they're going to surprise them. They're trying to do some sleep things for Michigan State. The time difference is a big difference there. It's 2 hours difference, and I do think Washington is underrated and should be. I think Michigan State's overrated. Maybe not crazy amount. Maybe they should be around 20. Washington's underrated. Should be around 25. So, they're close, and Washington's at home, which is a tough place to play. So I think Washington will win that game. I don't think that they'll cover, but I think they'll win. So it'll be a really close game on there. Now, the rest of them, there's some good later games. So really, the only real primetime game is that Michigan State at Washington. The next one is Texas Tech at NC State. Now, I do think that Texas Tech is going to be tired after their trip to the double overtime against Houston. I think they're going to be tired. Then they have to travel all the way to NC State, change time zones. NC State is a good team. I don't think they're overrated. They're at 16. So, and NC State's favored by 10. I don't think they're going to win by 10. I think they'll win, but Texas Tech will cover that game. Now, next here is Miami at Texas A&M. Now, that is at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. That is a good game. It's hard to say here, Miami, they're, just 1 year under their new coach. So they only have one game under him, and then Texas A&M's not looking very good. But it's at Texas A&M. I think Miami's overrated at 13. I definitely think Texas A&M is overrated at 24. Miami had a close game in their last game. I can't remember who they played, but let's see here. I think they had to come back. Well, not come back, but it was closer than it looked. They beat Southern Miss 30-7, but it was 10-7 at halftime and scored the rest in the rest of the quarter. So maybe they're looking forward a little bit to A&M. I think that Miami is going to win this, so they're going to cover and win against A&M. There's a chance I definitely could be wrong on this one if A&M is really mad from last week, but I still think Miami will win. Now, one that's near and dear to my heart is San Diego State at Utah. Utah's number 14 right now. Now, let's see. Last week, Utah won by a huge margin. You gotta love winning by 73-7 and still going down in the rankings. So, you expect this because Florida lost. But San Diego State, if you guys don't understand, that was a turning point last year for Utah. Cam Rising started halfway through the game. They went into overtime. If he had played the whole game, they would have won. They really kind of rubbed it in there to San Diego State. I think Whittingham has payback in mind. Utah's favored by 21, and I think they will cover. And it's at Utah. So have fun with that one, San Diego State. Fresno State at USC. Fresno State just had a slugfest last week with USC had a good game with Stanford. I do think that USC, they're favored by 11.5. I think they're going to win this. I think it's going to the under 74 points. So this is going to be high flying, lots of scoring as Fresno State's quarterback is really good. And so USC, their defense just really sucks. So let's see here. So they're going against, Jake Hayner. So their quarterback's really good. And USC is going to win this, and they're going to cover, but it's going to be a ton of points, and that's going to be a fun game to watch. So I'm going to be watching the Utah game, but I'll also be spying the Fresno State. If I were someone else, I probably would just be watching the USC game. Now, another good game, the last game of the night, 9 p.m. Mountain Time. Holy crap. 11 p.m. Eastern. There's going to be a game of North Dakota State, the Bison, at Arizona. Now, that, unless you know, I know it's hard to tell, but the North Dakota State, that's the good North Dakota State, like the best one. They won the championship last year. They win consistently all the time. They beat big schools. This will be a really interesting game against them, because I really do think Arizona is way better than they were last year, but this schedule is terrible for them. So they beat San Diego State to start out. They lose to Mississippi State. They have to play North Dakota State. Stop scheduling North Dakota State. Let's see. What is the? They are. There's no lines on that right now. I don't know if they just don't do lines on it because it's just great podcasting, obviously, here. Okay, so I'm not seeing any lines on this, at least. I'm sure you can find them somewhere, but dude, I don't know what to say on this one. I think Arizona, I don't know. This one's tough. I hope they win it. I'm just going to go with that. I think they're going to win it. It's going to be really close, but I think they'll win it. Now, let's see here. Most people do watch a lot on YouTube after the fact, don't really watch live. So I got a couple of people watching here, but if you made it this far, I really appreciate it. It really means everything to me that people would watch and participate. I really would love to have some more comments and everything. I really would love it. I'm going to be doing some new things. I may have a co-host coming on here soon. But please, like I said before, like and subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on the podcast apps. Please give 5 stars especially on the Apple Podcasts, the iTunes app. I will read any comments and messages across all platforms. I also added a voicemail text line, and I'll put that in the notes at 208-643-5729. But I really appreciate you guys, and thank you for listening and watching, or however you're doing it, with the best college football podcast. Thanks a lot, guys, and have a nice night.